Northern Iraq, 1966. A small plane touches down on a makeshift dirt runway in the Zagros Mountains. No markings identify its origin. The pilot speaks Hebrew into his radio. Within minutes, crates are being unloaded. Soviet-designed weapons, medical supplies, communications equipment. The men receiving them are Kurdish fighters, technically citizens of Iraq, actually soldiers in a war most of the world doesn't know exists. And the man coordinating this delivery isn't Iraqi, isn't Kurdish, and certainly isn't supposed to be here. He's Mossad. This is how Israel built one of its most valuable and most secret alliances. The story begins with a map and a problem. Look at Israel in the 1960s, surrounded by hostile Arab states committed to its destruction. Traditional military doctrine says, defend against enemies on your borders. But Israeli strategic thinkers understood something more sophisticated. The best way to handle an enemy on your border is to create problems inside their borders, problems that consume their attention, resources, and military capacity. The Kurds were that problem. Kurdistan isn't a country. It's a dream spread across 4 nations: Turkey, Iraq, Iran, and Syria. 30 million people sharing language, culture, and a bitter history of betrayal by everyone who ever promised them statehood. For Kurdish nationalists, the goal was independence. For the governments controlling Kurdish regions, the goal was suppression. These competing objectives created perfect conditions for outside intervention. Israel saw opportunity where others saw only chaos. The strategic logic was elegant. Iraqi military forces deployed in Kurdish regions couldn't simultaneously threaten Israel. Every soldier fighting Kurdish insurgents in the north was a soldier not stationed near Jordan's border. Every tank destroyed by Kurdish ambushes was a tank that wouldn't roll into a future Arab-Israeli war. Supporting Kurdish resistance wasn't charity. It was force multiplication. A small investment in weapons and training could tie down a much larger enemy force indefinitely. But there was another dimension beyond military calculation. Kurdish fighters operating throughout Iraq could observe and report on activities Israel desperately wanted to monitor. Iraqi military movements, Soviet weapon deliveries, suspected chemical weapons facilities, nuclear development. All of this could be tracked through Kurdish sources willing to share information with anyone offering support. Intelligence isn't just about what you can steal. It's about who will tell you secrets, because doing so serves their interests. The operational challenge was geography. Israel and Kurdistan are separated by hundreds of miles of hostile territory. Syria and Iraq stood between them, both countries that would shoot down any Israeli aircraft caught in their airspace. The solution required creativity and risk tolerance. They built an invisible bridge through Iran. In the 1960s and 70s, Iran under the Shah maintained close relations with Israel. The Shah had his own reasons for supporting Kurdish insurgency. A weakened Iraq meant a stronger Iran. Israeli intelligence leveraged this alignment. Weapons and trainers could flow through Iran to Kurdish regions without direct Israeli presence. Iranian intelligence provided cover, logistics, and deniability. The arrangement benefited everyone. Israel got its strategic objective, Iran got regional advantage, and the Kurds got resources they couldn't obtain elsewhere. Kurdish leader Mullah Mustafa Barzani became the central figure in this relationship. By the 1960s, he commanded thousands of Peshmerga fighters and controlled substantial territory in northern Iraq. He was pragmatic, understanding that Kurdish independence required outside support. When Israeli intelligence made contact through Iranian intermediaries, Barzani didn't hesitate. He needed weapons, training, and intelligence. Israel offered all three in exchange for information and the strategic benefit of tying down Iraqi forces. Israeli advisors embedded with Kurdish units, teaching modern infantry tactics and intelligence-gathering techniques. Weapons shipments included small arms, anti-tank missiles, and communications equipment that transformed Kurdish military capability. The insurgency went from an irritation Baghdad could ignore to an existential internal threat requiring massive military deployment. Intelligence cooperation proved even more valuable. Kurdish scouts photographed Soviet weapon deliveries, tracked deployment patterns, and reported on conversations overheard where Iraqi officers spoke freely. This human intelligence supplemented Israeli technical capabilities. When the Six-Day War erupted in 1967, Israel's comprehensive defeat of Arab forces relied partly on intelligence advantages gained through the Kurdish network, but alliances built on strategic convenience are inherently unstable. In 1975, Iran and Iraq reached the Algiers Accord, settling border disputes. As part of this deal, the Shah agreed to stop supporting Kurdish insurgency. When Iranian support ended, Israeli support couldn't continue. The supply routes closed, the weapons stopped flowing, and Barzani's rebellion collapsed within months, crushed by Iraqi forces. The betrayal devastated Kurdish fighters who had believed their alliance meant genuine commitment. Thousands died. Survivors fled to Iran as refugees. Barzani went into exile, dying in the United States in 1979. For Kurdish nationalists, the Algiers Accord became another entry in a long history of abandonment by outside powers who supported Kurdish aspirations only while it served their interests. The lesson was bitter but clear. Great powers have interests, not friends, yet the relationship didn't end permanently. After the Gulf War, in 1991, Iraqi Kurdistan became semi-autonomous, protected by Western no-fly zones, and Israel quietly re-established contact. The post-1991 relationship was more sophisticated. Rather than direct military support, Israeli intelligence focused on training, communications, and strategic advice. Mossad officers worked with Kurdish intelligence services, sharing techniques for counterterrorism and surveillance. The relationship remained covert, but its existence was an open secret. The strategic logic remained fundamentally similar. A stable, autonomous Iraqi Kurdistan created a buffer between Iran and Arab territories, provided intelligence collection opportunities, and maintained pressure on any Iraqi government that might contemplate hostility toward Israel. Both Israel and Kurdistan faced common threats from Iran and Islamic State. Intelligence sharing on these enemies benefited both parties. Israeli companies, operating through European subsidiaries, also engaged in Kurdistan's oil sector, providing technical expertise and facilitating exports. This economic relationship generated revenue for Kurdish government while providing Israel with access to resources and influence. Energy analysts tracked Kurdish oil flowing through Turkish pipelines to Israeli refineries, understanding the political implications without requiring official confirmation. The current status of Israeli-Kurdish relations remains ambiguous by design. Both parties benefit from maintaining plausible deniability while cooperating on mutual concerns. Iraqi Kurdistan has pursued increasingly open economic and cultural ties with Israel, with officials occasionally hinting at intelligence cooperation without confirming specifics. The relationship exists in that gray zone where everyone understands what's happening without anyone officially confirming it. What does this decades-long partnership reveal? That geography matters less than shared interests, that the enemy of your enemy really can become a useful partner, that relationships built on strategic convenience survive as long as circumstances maintain those conveniences, that intelligence cooperation doesn't require friendship or formal agreements, just mutual benefit calculated with clear-eyed realism. The Kurdish-Israeli relationship demonstrates the invisible nature of intelligence work. For decades, this cooperation occurred with minimal public awareness. Weapons changed hands, advisors trained fighters, intelligence flowed between services, all while most of the world had no idea. This invisibility is itself a strategic asset. What can't be seen can't be easily countered. The Kurdish relationship is one example of a pattern repeated across decades and regions. Find actors whose interests align with yours. Provide support calibrated to maintain that alignment. Extract intelligence value while providing security assistance. Maintain plausible deniability. Build networks that compensate for geographic isolation. This approach has characterized Mossad operations from Africa to Central Asia. The alliance continues evolving as regional dynamics shift. Iranian influence in Iraq, Turkish operations against Kurdish groups, Islamic extremism, all create new pressures and opportunities. The fundamental logic hasn't changed. Both face common threats, both benefit from cooperation, and both understand the relationship will last exactly as long as those conditions persist. What's your take? Was Israeli support for Kurdish insurgency legitimate self-defense or cynical exploitation? Does intelligence cooperation with non-state actors strengthen stability or fuel endless conflict? Drop your perspective in the comments. If this investigation into covert alliances made you see Middle Eastern politics differently, hit that like button and share this video. Subscribe because we're revealing the hidden networks and secret partnerships that shape conflicts most people only see on the surface. Hit that notification bell. The next buried alliance is waiting to be uncovered.